With the upcoming release of the highly anticipated 28 Years Later, let's talk infected zombie comics. The first on my list is The Crossed. In terms of the infected zombie type in which the zombies aren't dead but infected, the series I get asked the most about is the Crossed series from Avatar Comics. Be warned, this series is probably the most notorious of any comic series I'm aware of for its gruesome depictions of sadistic violence and sexual content. It's beyond twisted and can be nauseating with its fully detailed, uncensored, brutal images. You'll want to exercise extreme caution when reading this series because it has images of things you just won't be able to unsee. And overall, it's just not for any casual horror reader. In terms of films, people have asked about how it relates to 28 Days Later, but the closest thing I can tell people is it's more like the 2021 Taiwanese film, The Sadness. The main reason Cross is on this list is because, like 28 Days Later, you're dealing with infected zombie types. In the Cross universe, you're still a living human being, but when you're infected with the Cross virus, you will enact the most horrifically depraved actions on others and even yourself on a singular mission of infecting or exterminating every non-Cross human being on the planet. Once they know where you are, they will never stop and more will come until they have you. And don't even think about outsmarting them, as painting a red cross on your face will not save you, as they have an innate sense for who is one of them and who is not. And don't even try using things to ward them off, as they're not bound by any superstition, as one poor family finds out when they try to use salt to protect themselves. You really don't want to know what happens to them. The Cross also seem to have an unknown desire to seek out their own family members and friends to do unspeakable things to them. So if you try to hide a family member and are infected, there's a good chance you're going directly to the hiding spot to go after that family member. This series holds nothing back and is one of the bleakest stories to ever hit comic shelves. But if you're interested in survival stories in the darkest of scenarios, The Cross actually has some pretty interesting tales if you can stomach the gut-wrenching imagery and subject matter. The next infected zombie story is Black Gas. Black Gas is another comic from Avatar Press. After an earthquake releases a mysterious black gas from the earth, a young couple must fight to escape the inhabitants of the island, who are exposed to the gas and are now crazed infected, who are attacking anything they can get their teeth on. In this universe, the black gas deteriorates the minds of those exposed to it, and those people resort to extreme violence and cannibalism. It can also be transmitted by bite or exposure to infected blood. These infected still have a measure of intelligence and can and will use tools to aid them in their efforts to find any non-infected. This story is also bleak and has graphic depictions of violence, so be warned going in, it doesn't pull its punches either. This series spans 2 volumes and is kind of tough to track down, but it's a notable entry in the infected zombie horror comic genre. Next on my list is Punisher versus the Marvel Universe. The Punisher versus the Marvel Universe is not only one of Marvel's best dark horror series, it's one of the most underrated Punisher stories too. It was just your average day in the Marvel NYC with one of Marvel's heroes battling one of his villains just like any other day as they crashed into a hockey stadium. Everything seemed pretty normal until the hero ripped out the villain's throat with his teeth on live television. That's where the end of it all began, as Frank Castle, the Punisher, recounts how the world fell to a mysterious virus that turned everyone, heroes and villains alike, into vicious monsters. This story is definitely one of Marvel's darkest horror comics because the infected in this story are similar to the Crossed in that they have no inhibitions and become psychopaths that will attack, kill, and eat others or worse. Imagine an infected blob showing up at a buffet, only he isn't there for the food on the menu. Some of the infected also maintain their intelligence and lead armies of the other infected. This is a desolate world, but there's one person who's thriving in it, and it's the Punisher. As he puts it, for everyone else, the world went crazy. For me, it became sane and simple, pure. It was me versus everyone else. The plus side to the story is that if you enjoy it, there's also 2 other series you can pick up: Marvel Universe versus Wolverine and Marvel Universe versus the Avengers. Next up is Deceased. Deceased is DC Comics' take on an infected zombie apocalypse. When Darkseid manages to release the anti-life equation onto Earth via electronic signals like broadcasts over the television or the internet, it doesn't take long for the Earth and even the rest of the DC universe to succumb to the anti-life infected. In DCeased, the anti-life infections are first spread through technology, but once infected, those people go on to spread the infection through bites. They also have an almost supernatural ability to locate the uninfected and will never stop hunting them, even across the universe. This story is also great because it doesn't pull any punches and anyone can die in this series. You're going to see DC's greatest heroes fight for their lives in this story. And if you like it, there's numerous sequels and spin-offs to this story too. And the last comic is 28 Days Later. If you're hyped for 28 Years Later, why not check out the 28 Days Later comics? One of the best things about Boom Studios is 28 Days Later comics is they directly continue Selina's story from the first film as she finds herself back in infected Britain. This is a character-driven story told in a grim and gritty art style that evokes the digital film style of the original film. This is probably one of the best film to comic adaptations ever made, so if you're wanting to explore the 28 Days Later universe beyond the films, this is a must read. So seeing as how we're finally getting a third installment in the 28 Days Later franchise, are there any long delayed horror movies you'd love to see get a sequel? I'd actually love to see a sequel to John Carpenter's The Thing and Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight.